Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP23 playthrough of the Kansas City Royals. We are at the trade deadline, and since our last episode, I've had one idea. As you know, we've traded away a lot of veterans with big contracts this year. Those that we did before the season, we've dumped that money into our scouting and development budget, but we've still got a lot of money that we can potentially spend this year. And being a scheming general manager, I've been trying to rack my brain of what to do with that money. And have finally come up with an idea. Want to take on a couple of really crappy contracts from some other teams so they can get some money off of their books. And hopefully they'll give us a decent prospect or two to go with that money. So that's what we are going to try to do. Obviously still want to try to generate a nice profit for the year, so we're not going to go crazy with all this $22 million that we have left at this point. But I think if we take on a couple of bad contracts, that could be an opportunity for us to pick up a couple additional players. I know that in the past when I've dumped bad contracts, I've been willing to give up good players to get rid of them. So my hope is that we can find a team with some bad contracts and get a few prospects for our system by taking on some of that money. Looking through the batters that are available, a couple stand out to me. Lorenzo Kane, 36 years old, finishing up an $80 million contract, and Evan Longoria, 36 years old, finishing up a $137 million contract. They'd both be good in the clubhouse. Longoria, particularly strong leadership, work ethic, and intelligence. Personality class captain. You can see he's just a league average hitter at this point, but that's not really what this trade is about. Lorenzo Kane would obviously be interesting to bring back to the Royals. Again, not a great player at this point, but if either the Brewers or the Giants is in a position where they want to take some salary off of the books, going to give it a try and see if we can maybe make a deal. And since I started playing around with these trades, I've almost found that I think they might be too advantageous towards me, so I actually just kicked up my trade difficulty one more notch. Obviously, getting to know the game, I certainly don't feel like when we traded away Salvador Perez earlier this year, I don't feel like we got a great deal for that. So I think the trade setting that we've been on has been okay, but with these type of salary dump trades that I'm trying to do right now, it just seemed like they were just so eager to give up the salary, and it is only a one-year contract that I wanted to make it a little more difficult. So I bumped trade difficulty up another notch to just kind of hopefully keep things as realistic as possible. Obviously, I want them to be as easy as possible running the Royals, but I want to try to make things realistic. So looking at Longoria, obviously, they'll take anything for him. They just want to get him off. So get him off of their roster. So figure out who I can kind of dump on them, and then figure out if there's another prospect or two on their team that I can potentially add if I'm willing to give up someone a little better than whatever garbage I decide to send their way initially. And it's not fair to call these people garbage, by the way, even though they're just blips on a computer screen. No one is garbage. So we added in one player, 26-year-old catcher who's at the single A level. So certainly not a ton of future potential there. Obviously, our assistant GM says, let's not take on an overpaid veteran. Obviously, San Francisco very excited to do that deal right now. RJ Dabovich, 23-year-old reliever, only in high A ball, but certainly has the profile where he could be a useful arm out of the bullpen. If we add him into the deal, they're still happy to do it to get rid of Longoria's contract. Anyone else that we could think about? Josward Camacho, 18-year-old shortstop. Okay defensively. Looks like he could maybe be a league average type hitter if he develops perfectly. Wonder if they would add him in also. Close but no cigar. What else would we need to add to get him? Starting to get to the point where we are having to add in something of more significant value. So take Camacho out of the deal. I don't really want to go dumping a bunch of stuff to make this deal happen. Maybe another reliever. Relievers are historically not very valued. Kervin Castro. Pretty run-of-the-mill reliever. Would like to get a lefty if I could. Love it if they would give a starter. Kyle Harrison, number 45 prospect in baseball. I'm guessing they will laugh when I add him to the deal. Yeah, we'll have to do a whole lot better than that. And you're not getting Melendez or Witt Jr. Averson Arteaga. Not as good as the last shortstop we looked at. Definitely not as good a hitter, but still a decent. Yeah, they're a little less interested in him. I'll keep playing around, figure if I can maybe get a little more from them. And I think we've got a deal together. So we're going to send them Michael Amodi, catcher that doesn't have a big future with our team, as well as Suli Matthias, center fielder with some power. He's hit 20 homers in Double-A this year, but he's going to be 24 next season. Probably not going to have a huge impact at the major league level. They actually only want us to take on 15% of Longoria's contract. I guess they're happy to, they want us to take all of it, but they're willing to go to just 85%. Dabovich, the closer, I think is someone who could definitely be helping us next year with the way his profile looks. And then they also added in a third baseman, Javier Bolivar. Not great defensively, even at third base. Has a little bit of pop in his bat, average home run power, a little bit of gap power. Only 19 years old, could potentially become a useful piece. So even though our assistant GM doesn't like it, we're going to go ahead and make this trade, take on a little bit of salary, and may just, I don't know if we're going to waive Longoria because he would be good in the clubhouse. We'll see if the fans are excited by bringing him on board or not. Might get a little boost from that perspective also. Yeah, and the fans are excited, so now we just have to hope that he retires in the off season rather than goes and signs with someone else as a free agent, since otherwise they will be upset with us. But I think our fan interest was 50 before, and it's up to 54 now. So it doesn't seem to hurt us. Still have a little more salary that we're going to try to use up, so we'll try to make another trade or two. And looking at our lineup, I'm going to send Vinny Pasquantino down to AAA for the rest of the year, or at least until September roster expansion. Has been respectable for us, but only had 162 at-bats at the major league level, even though he's been up all year, so he'll get a little extra playing time. He's not in the starting lineup right now anyways, and that will open up a spot for us to put our new team member, Evan Longoria, on the roster for the final couple weeks of the season here. And Longoria is actually going to step into our lineup as the DH, batting 7th, according to Mike Matheny, against right-handers. And then he's also going to be DH, batting 7th against left-handers. So maybe he can help us a little bit. We'll see. And we found another nasty contract, maybe to take some of it on. David Price, who's in his last year with a huge contract with the Dodgers. Actually still a reasonable pitcher, but Dodgers are looking to deal him. If they're looking to deal him to get the contract off, then it's something that we can potentially think about. If they are looking for something crazy, we have no interest. But yeah, they're just looking to dump the contract. You can tell by who they're looking for. So maybe we can pick up a prospect or two from them as well. And obviously, the initial reaction of our assistant GM is to not do this. They're offering us an overpaid veteran. Totally get that, JJ, but we're going to see if they'll give us a prospect or two with him. And I think we've got a deal on David Price also. They're only going to retain 45% of his contract, so that's going to cost us $6.6 million. But that's okay. I wanted to use up some of the money so the owner doesn't think we're as profitable as maybe we really are, but still want to make some money. But have to give up Harrison Beath, a relief pitcher who I don't think has a big-time future at the major league level. And then Maikel Garcia, pretty solid fielder, but I don't think he's ever going to hit that much. Obviously, we're taking on Price's contract, but the benefit we get from doing that is first baseman Samuel Munoz. Almost 18 years old, high work ethic, but definitely has potential to be an interesting hitter with plus power and really good gap power and eye. Question is going to be whether his contact and his avoid Ks develops, and then also doesn't really have any position that he's going to excel at in the field. Even at first base, he's looking not all that great. Does look like we could potentially turn him into a left fielder or a mediocre right fielder, so some potential there. But given that we've got excess cash that we want to use up, I think taking on almost half of the money they still owe to Price in exchange for getting Munoz, who is definitely the best of the prospects involved, makes sense for us. So we are going to complete that trade also. And the fans are happy we acquired David Price. So we're making the fans very happy also with these acquisitions, although that only moved us up 2 ticks in fan interest. But we're not going to be re-signing any of these guys. So if they just don't retire, the fans are going to be upset when they leave us next year. So that's kind of a neutral move, but it is what it is. Oh, and just to point this out, Longoria is actually not in the last year of his contract. There's a $13 million team option, which we are obviously going to refuse if he doesn't decide to retire at the end of the season. So from that perspective, I guess we'll be letting him go regardless. I guess our biggest hope is that if he doesn't just retire, nobody really wants to sign him, and we don't take the hit from him moving on to play for somebody for $1 million or something next year. Wow, and the sad thing about David Price is that at this stage in his career, even with the Royals, he was not put into our starting rotation. So I guess it's nice to have another lefty out of the pen, but it just shows how the injuries have kind of robbed him of what was once a brilliant career. And obviously, it's still a very good career that he had, but he's obviously not at age almost 37, the pitcher that he was when he was younger. And we've got one last trade set up where we're going to send Eric Sarantola, starting pitcher. Some potential, 2 really good pitches. If you can get that changeup working, he could be effective. And Shane Panzini, who is a soon-to-be 21-year-old, only in rookie ball. But 2 decent pitchers to pick up Lorenzo Kane from the Brewers, and they will throw in Taylor Floyd, who is a decent prospect as a relief pitcher, and then more interesting Daniel Guillarte, shortstop prospect, probably really more of a second baseman. Looks like we could probably potentially try to train him up at third base too. No power at all, but could be a decent contact hitter. May become a useful piece. Again, we're just kind of looking for lottery tickets right now. So we are going to go ahead and complete that trade also. The fans obviously happy to see Lorenzo Kane back in Kansas City near the end of his career. So we'll have to figure out if there's a way for us to get him onto the Major League roster also. And to make room for Lorenzo Kane, we're going to send Kyle Isbell down. His hit 264 for us, just not a lot of power with 6 home runs and 277 at-bats. His 95 OPS plus is down 16 points from last year, and only has a 0.1 WAR. So he definitely is still a player who is potentially part of the Royals' future. But to make space for Mr. Kane, we are going to send him down and then updating the depth chart. We'll see what happens. The other thing is that allows Hunter Renfroe to move into right field, at least against right-handed pitchers, which could help us a little bit with ownership who wanted us to upgrade right field, although I don't know that Renfroe's really going to put up much better numbers than Whit Merrifield had so far in that position. But not our main priority. So a lot more action on this last day of the trade deadline than we expected, but we did, take on some bad contracts and use up some of that excess money that we have in the payroll. Hopefully, one or two of those young players we picked up becomes a contributor, and if that happens over the next few years, then taking on a little bit of that salary was well worth it. We're going to sim ahead through the month of August now and report back if and when anything interesting happens. Well, we've made it to September roster expansion. Not a great month for the Orioles in August. Definitely have kind of, we were never really contenders, but we have clearly made ourselves not contenders at this point. 59-72 now, 20 games out of first. Even looking at the wild card, 8 games out of the wild card, although still inexplicably we're somehow ahead of the Red Sox and the Rangers. Probably not quite as surprising that we're ahead of the Orioles, but was hoping to kind of get into the mid-70s in terms of wins. Still possible, but it's going to have to play well in September to get there. We'll see how the rest of the season goes once we bring a couple of players back, and it's not going to be too hard to figure out who to add to the roster since we had to put some players that we like a lot into the minors to kind of make space for some of the trades that we just made. But we're going to bring Gabe Spire back to the Major League roster and also put Kyle Isbell back on the roster. Vinny Pasquantino is banged up, only 1 day with a hip strain, but he will probably be the first player back up if we have any more injuries. But update the pitching staff in the rotation with the addition of Spire, and also update our lineups. And Lorenzo Kane is now kind of the only guy that's a backup now that we brought Isbell back up. But he didn't really hit all that much in Omaha, quite honestly. But only 223 down there, so even worse than he was hitting up in the majors. Hopefully he'll bounce back over the last month of the season here. And Michael Taylor, who's had a really rough year for us, been on the DL or the IL previously, and has only batted $175 while he's been in the majors, out with a torn thumb ligament for 3 weeks. So that could very well mean the end of his season. Rough year for Taylor, who is going to be back with us next year at $4.5 million. Would have liked to see a little more from him this year. He's going to be 32 next year. I don't think Lorenzo Kane is going to be the long-term answer for us in center field, but obviously he will get some more action there now, and that injury will allow us to bring Vinny Pasquantino back up to the Major League roster to get a little more playing time as we get near the end of the season here. And just lost Nicky Lopez. It's September 16th. We're 67-78, so still getting to those mid-70s in wins is possible, but certainly losing our starting shortstop isn't going to help. But the season's not going anywhere anyways. Chronic back soreness. We've signed him to a extension. Don't want to do anything to risk Lopez's long-term health, so we will send him down and bring up our old friend Ivan Castillo, who has been up and down a couple times this year. I imagine Castillo is going to go right into the starting lineup rather than shifting Bobby Witt Jr. over there, but let's see. Yep, that's exactly what Matheny is going to do. Go with the more experienced defensive shortstop and bat him ninth. And the Royals are finishing up this season with a furious rally. You can see we've gotten to 75-78. So we've gotten to the mid 70s wins that we wanted, and we've won 8 in a row, 9-1 streak here. So obviously not going to be a playoff team, which is fine, but ownership wanted us to play close to 500 ball this year, and you can see that with where we are right now, we're certainly in the green on that one. Although we've moved into the red with Whit Merrifield having a little bit less productive in the second half of the season than he was before. But if we can, play well over this last week and a half of the season, poised to have the best winning percentage that the Royals have had in at least 5 years. So hopefully can continue this strong finish to the season over the last week and a half. And as part of that long winning streak, Nick Pratto, a rookie who we signed to a long-term extension earlier in the year, was voted Rookie of the Month for September, batting .310 with 4 doubles, a triple, and 9 dingers. 22 runs scored, 23 runs batted in for the season. You can see 25 homers and 75 runs batted in. So a really nice debut this year for the young rookie who hopefully is our first baseman of the future. And it's actually kind of amazing with the big rally that we've had. We were only eliminated from the playoffs today. I hadn't even looked that closely, and not that it would have changed anything, but crazy. Yeah, the third playoff team in the American League is only going to be a little bit over 500. So with the good baseball that the Royals had been playing for the last month or so, we were actually in the playoff race, even though we didn't realize it. That's the benefit, I guess, of a sixth team in the playoffs in the major leagues now. So the regular season is over. The Royals finished 79-83, last in the American League Central. But as you can see here, our first year of being general manager of the Yankees, the best winning percentage that they've had in 5 years. So made a little bit of progress on the field. More importantly, I think we made a lot of progress with the quality and depth of our minor league system. Don't know if player development is really going to show that. You can see here we're 30th out of 30th overall right now. That's obviously driven, I think, by the top 3 prospects in our system in Bobby Witt Jr., Nick Pratto, and MJ Melendez going to the major league team this year. But I think our system is better than that, and I think we've made some interesting trades this year that are going to pay dividends over the future time. So interesting that we're considered to have the worst minor league system in baseball right now, but I think that may be changing as things go forward. We'll see. Looking at the overall standings, as I mentioned, we did finish 5th in the American League Central. When all was said and done, we were 3 games out of the wild card, so certainly gives hope. 82-80 was the AL wild card this year. The National League a little better with the Mets at 85-77, but you don't need to get far into the 80s to be in the mix for a wild card, it appears. So that will definitely keep things interesting, but our goal was to play close to 500 ball, at least with the owner, and so we obviously accomplished that, which should hopefully win us a little bit of credibility with ownership. And we obviously have a lot of money left for free agents. Should have a pretty good financial performance this year. Yeah, you can see we're expecting a $27 million profit when management had only budgeted for a $15 million profit. So hopefully that will be positive. Hopefully that will mean that our budget gets increased. That would be a big help for us to have a bigger budget for next year. We are going to do a full recap of the season, take a look at the final stats of all of the interesting players, including Bobby Witt Jr., see whether he may be able to perhaps get some votes for Rookie of the Year. So in our next episode, going to do a recap of this entire first season and also see what happens in terms of the big player awards for the 2022 season, and obviously going to be following closely what happens in the playoffs too. Looking at playoff coverage, you can see in the playoff tree we've got the White Sox and the A's with home field advantage in the American League, the Angels, Twins, Tigers, and Yankees in the playoffs. In the National League, the Padres and the Cardinals with the home field advantage, Braves, Dodgers, Mets, and Phillies in the playoffs. So we will see how all of the playoffs go with the new format in our next episode, but we're going to spend most of our time reviewing this 2022 season and seeing exactly what the stats look like for some of our Kansas City Royals, and start planning for what this team should look like in 2023. Thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.